we can go to a player who went wild last night, Gabe Vincent, having five threes. I mean, I saw him pull up from the top of the key multiple times with a hand in his face and just swishing that ball down. I mean, he was crazy last night. And Jimmy Butler obviously got his 25 points. He's currently not anymore the top scorer in the playoffs. I think Devin Booker has elapsed him over like 1 point because, obviously that ankle injury. But last night, I mean, I saw a great performance from three players last night, and it wasn't Bam. It was Jimmy, obviously, who's always going to get his. But it was Gabe Vincent and it was Kyle Lowry. And that old man really showed off last night. I mean, fourth quarter, mid-east turnaround, he had a couple of pull-up threes. And defensively, that man is a menace. He is the real Fortnite because he's just gonna get his hand in, while you're dribbling every time. If you're going for the Euro step, you definitely better believe that Kyle Lowry is gonna get you in. He's gonna go and then he's gonna go in the ref's face and demand a jump ball like he did a couple of times yesterday.
I think we alluded to this, that this was going to be a very physical series, probably the most physical series that we're gonna see in these playoffs, and I think that's why Kyle Lowry might just get away with a lot more swipes on the ball or like somewhat of physical contact here and there. And I feel like just Miami in general is very aggressive and very physical, and I think this series they're just gonna allow them to be more physical, somewhat closer to what the Warriors Kings series was, where they allowed a lot of contact to go through, and they just allowed the players to play through the contact. And I think it's going to be on a really different level, and I think Knicks have to match that physicality.
Sachin, last night, Miami was good from three. I mean, they were pretty much
It,
average, right? 13 for
comparatively,
39. Comparatively average, 13 for 39, 33.3. I mean, that's a little below league average from the three. But Knicks were 7 for 34, which is like 20% from three. We've seen them against.
17% from three. The Knicks was
No,
17 from three.
yeah, for a particular time they were, but at the end, I mean, they might have gotten chucked up a shot in garbage time. But uh, after that, even in the Cavaliers series, you could see that 27% averaging 27% from three, which is far below league average, right? And Julius Randle, who is still a better 3-point shooter than Obi Toppin, I would say, is injured currently. What do you think is going to be the matchup plan for Tom Thibodeau and the next team, especially if they're not knocking down any outside shot?
I mean, it was this was a weakness that was exposed in the last game that happened with Heat. I mean, they started well when they were throwing points in the paint, and then the paint defense was amazing. I mean, they were not being able to get into the paint, and when they were being able to get into the paint, they were not being able to score. They got some offensive rebounds as well, but they were not able to score in the paint after some time, and that came after the Kevin Love showed up and started throwing those outlet passes, and that changed the momentum towards Miami Heat forever. But that's the problem, I think. So the Heat have exposed a weakness with the Knicks. I think so. Obi Toppin came in and gave them the clutch points, but he is not. Here Obi Toppin is not the best when it comes to 3-point shooting. He's doing whatever he can. He's trying to show up as much as he want to. He just needs to wait for Julius Randle to show up. He's not Julius Randle. He cannot make as many plays as Julius can. And I think so. That is the kind of weakness that was exposed in the last game. In the paint, were good in the starting, but and they were start shooting well with the threes in the starting as well. In the first quarter, end of first quarter, they were doing well, but then it stopped. Then the streakiness stopped, and Obi Toppin stopped scoring, and then other players did not contribute as well. And I think so that was a problem.
Yeah, I think I agree. The Heat got severely out rebounded, and I think that was what I expected because of Mitchell Robinson and how the Knicks out rebounded the Cavs. And uh, if you remember, in the first playing game, Heat were massively out rebounded. They couldn't rebound anything, and they were just killed on the glass. And they just looked like a G League team at that point where they couldn't defend, couldn't rebound, and it was just the same highlight all over again, like that same clip over and over and over again, where the Hawks would miss a shot, get a rebound, put it back in. It's a simple calculation wherein if the other team gets like 20 more shots than you, they're obviously going to score more than you, right? But the Knicks kind of skewed that as well, wherein they just couldn't score even off of like, I saw like 3 offensive rebounds in the same possession, but they still came up empty. Uh, I felt like the Knicks were rebounding everything, but somehow they didn't have a lot of offensive rebounds. They were like 13 or something. But anyways, I felt like the Heat did a really good job of shutting down Jalen Brunson because they showed him a lot of bodies. Uh, it was almost like they were triple teaming him at some points. They just tried to deter him from getting into the paint where it's his office. But he still had a decently good game. But I think outside of him, because Randall is out, I think they lack a lot of offense, just shot creation in general. They don't have a shot creator on that team other than Jalen Brunson, and Miami did a good job of containing him. Uh, I think that's what killed the Knicks. But overall, I feel like this is going to be a competitive series regardless. I think the Knicks are not going to shoot like 20% from three again. They probably shoot better in the next games, but I think they want to rely more on breaking the paint and then creating those threes. So there are much more open shots. They're easier and better shots. Wherein they were just out on the perimeter. They tried to be a very perimeter based team, which they're not. Uh, and I think just Miami out hustled them even. I think they were a bit shocked where Miami brought that intense defense and intense that intensity. And just other than that, I quickly wanted to touch on that football game that was going on in that. I think Angad alluded to that. There were Kevin Love had like 4 straight possessions wherein he was just chucking that
Chucking
ball
that
up
ball.
ahead. Yeah, like the average pass on that was like what 94 feet. Just I don't know what that was, but like crazy. Just it was almost like a football game where it was touchdown passes, 4 possessions straight, and the Knicks could do nothing about it.
And that really killed the momentum. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was sitting courtside, and he would definitely be proud of Kevin Love. But but seriously, I mean, the problem with the Knicks was last night was no one could buy a shot from three, right? Jalen Brunson was like 0 for 5 from three, and so was Josh Hart 0 for 4 from three, and that's going to be a problem for them throughout the series, right? At one point in time, Jalen Brunson was getting triple teamed in the paint, and the paint was just so clogged. You had Jimmy in the paint, you had Bam, you had Mitchell Robinson. I mean, when Obi Toppin is your best scorer from three, I think you're gonna face a you're gonna really
That
face
might
a
be an
problem,
issue,
right?
right?
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
definitely be an issue, and for sure, I mean, you know, I would assume that Jalen Brunson is not going 0% from three. I mean, he could probably get back to his average of league average 36%. So good Josh Hart and Obi Toppin and even Emmanuel Quickly, who had a bad night from three. I mean, they could all get back into their groove, but at the same point in time, I think even from Miami Heat, we didn't see a lot of 3-point shooting. I mean, 2 for 5 from Kevin Love, which I mean, I can expect him to get that again. But you go back to Max 2 for 5, I think he can get that again. Gave Vincent 5 for 12, 41%. I mean, not that high of a volume, but I mean, I could see him go 3 for 9, and that'd be enough. Caleb Martin 1 for 5. Again, I can see a lot of these Miami players. Duncan Robinson 0 for 5. I mean, I can see a lot of these players averaging more than 36% from three, more than league average from three, and that could be a serious problem. And Tom Thibodeau, throughout his coaching career, has had that problem, right? He can build the best defense in the league, but he has nothing on offense, and he needs those shot creators. And Jalen Brunson, the problem with Jalen Brunson is that he's going to get in that mid range, he's going to drive to the basket, and he's going to do all his work in the paint. And when it's clogged and when you can't get a shot out from outside, that's going to kill the Knicks at offense for sure.
Yeah, I think another issue with the Knicks was they didn't attack Butler after his injury.
Oh,
He
yeah.
seemed like he was limping and he just wasn't there, and he was just trying to be a threat just because of his gravity, and he was just trying to stand in the corner at times. And I think they didn't attack him enough. And if they probably did, they might have just pulled this game out because it wasn't like a big blowout. It was still a close game, but for sure, I think the Knicks missed out on that. But to your point, these two teams are not known for their 3-point shots, but I would favor Miami in that category. And just like you said, overall, the Knicks have not much offense than those two individual talents, and one of them being that injured. I feel like that's why I favored Miami a little bit. Uh, yeah, I think, but it's still going to be a good series, and I think some of those threes are gonna fall, some of those shots are just gonna fall the next game. And I'm excited for the adjustments that either coach has for this matchup, because they're two good coaches. Uh, and I can't wait to see that.
I mean, I briefly wanted to touch upon the point for that we saw that Jimmy Butler was playing after his injury as well. Do you think he should have sat on the bench and gotten someone into the game, because he was limping and he was standing in one corner, could not push probably as much into the paint? I know the game was done by that point of time, but it could have gone either way. I mean, Jimmy Butler could have worsened his injury at that point of time, or or else the Miami Heat could have brought in someone inside the game who could have pushed in the paint and gotten those 2-3 extra points if they needed, and to close the game altogether.
I mean, Doris Burke really pointed this out well, right? That after game one, you're still home court, right? You want Jimmy Butler to catch the first flight back home. You want him reassessed, and forget game two. You want him good for game three. I mean, in the longer run, I mean, Jimmy Butler is the most competitive man, right? He is the modern
Right.
MJ, and definitely he's gonna wanna play game two. But at the same point in time, Jimmy sitting in the corner, however much fire he may have caught, that while is shooting threes only on vibes. I mean, that could have been a cool 3 minutes for that could have been a cool 3 minutes for Kevin Love to be in that corner and still be somewhat of a target, somewhat of a threat from three. I mean, I'm giving Jimmy Butler every three, especially if I have a man and I have a contested three on it, even after the series he had from the Bucks, because I definitely with injured ankle. I mean, that ankle sprain, he just went down and it looked bad. And from looking back, that reminded me of another thing. I mean, Tom Thibodeau took out 5 timeouts in by the 8th minute of the third quarter. I did not understand why Polstra had 2 timeouts by that time. I mean, this was a game of opposite timeouts. I mean, either coach was waiting for the other team, other coach to just take that timeout, and then we'll discuss it during that. We don't need any time off. We're in the momentum. And it wasn't even such that there were momentum swinging timeouts. I mean, it was pretty much Knicks in the first half. We saw them out rebound, out hustle them, and then after that, the momentum just switched. It was Kevin Love with those NFL type to outlet 80, 90 feet passes, and then he'd never look back, just like we saw in the Bucks series.
Yeah, I think I agree to everything you just said. Just an overall momentum shift after that switch up, and I feel like some of that was just because Miami is a bit more conditioned, just because of how they prepare their players, how they are as an organization. They are known for that grind. They are known to be very tough on their players. You have to make specific weights. You have to pass specific conditioning tests and stuff like that. Even if you are like one of the premier players, even if you are all-star player, you
Just like
have to
what
pass
Shaq
their
said in
standards.
2006.
Yeah, I think you have to pass their specific conditioning tests and stuff. So I feel like that's why Spoelstra can just wait for the next to call timeout, wherein he knows his players are more conditioned and they're gonna give it 120%, wherein the other team will get tired before Miami gets tired. They might not have a lot of skill, but like other than maybe Jimmy Butler and a few other players, but they are damn sure very competitive and very conditioned and strong.
This is probably the third injury right now, right, in the East itself that we're waiting on. We have no idea when Randall is coming back. Probably not for game two. We have no idea whether Embiid is coming back tomorrow for game one. I mean, that's and day to day, and everyone is reporting that Embiid might play through the injury, Embiid might do this, Embiid might do that, and now the Jimmy Butler injury, right? But in a playoff series, guys, what do you think? Should you take that risk, or should you give up one game, even though it could be a home court game and you might lose home court advantage after that? But do you think sometimes it's better to give up that game, or you need to see, you need to be in that game? Because uh, let's say Jimmy Butler goes for game two, and let's say Jimmy Butler sits out for game two, and it's like a 5 point swing in the fourth quarter. I mean, Jimmy Butler could really help them win a second game too. And do you think it should be a day by day, or do you think you need your players, your star players especially, to get the rest and look forward to extending the series later on?
I think it's a very dynamic situation wherein it's not a very black and white case. It's probably a gray area wherein it depends on the player, it depends on the type of the injury, stuff like that. But we've already seen one of those things kind of go bad for the Bucks. I think they waited out on Giannis, trying to heal and trying to get better, because I think they saw the game two win and they were confident that the Bucks were just steamroll Miami, which wasn't the case, and just the momentum really shifted in that series. And just even coming back, the Bucks had all the pressure. Even after Giannis came back, the Bucks had all the pressure on them to win those games. Right, by that time, it was already 2-1, and then just after that 3-1, it was probably just over. And Jimmy made sure it didn't go long. So it can be a very dicey situation. Sometimes it is beneficial to put your player in, but as we saw in 2019, wherein maybe the Warriors or Durant himself rushed to get back in the game, and then he got the bigger injury, and which
Achilles
had
tear.
him sit out. Yeah, which had him sit out for a year or so. So I don't think there is a yes or a no or a proper answer in this. It really depends on the situation, and just you can't have a good answer for that.
I mean, talking about the yesterday night situation, I think so they should have arrested Jimmy Butler for sure. I mean, if they've thought that if they were thought in the last quarter, if they thought that they're losing this game, they could have probably brought him in for the threes. But I think so. Kevin Love would have been a good threat instead of Jimmy Butler. Or no, although I understand he's not as much, but also the Knicks knew that he's injured. He cannot push inside, so they knew his weakness at that point of time. So it was no point keeping him on the court. He could have probably
I
gotten
think
pushed by
with
another
that,
Knicks player and then more made his injury worse.
yeah, I think with that, there is an element of that for sure. But I think with most injuries, when your body is warm, you tend to play through it and you don't feel it as much. Yes, it could have gotten bad or like after, but I think they just wanted to secure this win at least because they were ahead and they had put in that effort. So I felt like they were just trying to secure that win. And as good as Kevin Love is from the 3 point line, he's no Jimmy Butler, as we've seen in the past series as well, or even in the past years. Jimmy is their guy. Jimmy is that offense. And I think even without him being 100%, I think they just wanted to use the threat of Jimmy to get other players some offense. And just with him even being on the floor, I think they're just a better team.
But Rudraj, if you're talking about this, I just wanted to quickly catch up on this point that if they want him as a threat with a broken foot on the floor, if Jimmy does not play a couple of games, misses a couple of games, do you think the Heat's look in a picture where they probably won't even fight for the championship or won't even fight for the game? If their thinking is that we need him, Jimmy Butler on the floor, whether his foot is broken or not.
I mean, like I said before, it's a very dicey situation wherein there is no right answer. There is no one real answer to whether he should be in the game or shouldn't be in the game. Knowing Jimmy, I think he's the one who said that I want to be in the game, and I don't want to go out, because he wanted to win that game for his team. And I think that's where this comes in. And similar with the Durant case, wherein Durant was the one who said who he wanted to play, because obviously the Warriors were losing. Uh, and I think it's a very situation to situation answer, and they decided to play him, and the consequences will only follow. Will only be able to speculate afterwards. Whereas, like they say, that hindsight is always 2020, right? You can't make those decisions with all that information that we will have in the next few days, but you just have to make one decision, and they decided to keep him in.
I think we're talking about all of this much more, like you pointed out, right? Hindsight in 2020. My bad, guys. But at the same point in time, I think the problem was that the Knicks did not attack Jimmy Butler at all. I mean, if they would have attacked Jimmy Butler during that last 3 minutes and maybe the injury goes haywire and maybe Jimmy trips and falls down more, I think we would have been discussing that. Whatever Jimmy might be the man, he might have that dog in him. But at the same point in time, it's sometimes better to take that logical uh, that logical step, and Spoelstra could have is one of the guys that's always taking the logical step. He's not playing on feelings, he's not playing on vibe, he's always a logical one, right?